Present at, or to be present at this workshop, somebody was present at it actually, on 1968. We're involved with high school students against the war. We have the Secretary of High School Students Against the War here, Helen Voisey. We have others who were active in that organisation, and the precursor organisation, which we have discovered, thanks to someone who is here, was called something like Secondary Students for Tolerance and Equality, or Peace and Equality. And anyway, we organised, one of the things we organised from about, I think our meetings went from late 65, early 66 on, something like that. We organised a 1968 bus trip to Canberra, which I was going to bring along a poster of that includes my wife in the poster, but wife-to-be, of course, and her brother, in fact, was on that bus as well, and he was going to be here. But unfortunately, I couldn't get an enlargement of it. But there was that. High school students were very much involved in that struggle against the war. And in 1968, there was a historic peace bus to Canberra. Over 100 students on it, and it was. It's something that has really been forgotten historically, and we must do something about that. But anyway, as high school students then in Australia, Vietnam was the great moral challenge to our generation, just as climate change is the great moral, ethical and political challenge to this generation. There were and are other challenges, of course. The politics of race is intimately bound up with the politics of empire. The politics of gender and sexuality were to become increasingly prominent and help define radicalism today. As does the politics of class, of course, which never actually disappeared from the agenda. By the late 1960s, the slogan of that streetwise Berkeley radical anarchist group told the story of where the movement was, because the Commune reckoned in their famous slogan, or famous to Berkeley aficionados, the issue is not the issue. And the issue is not, they reckoned the issue was not the issue anymore, if it ever was, because all issues intersect and reverberate in such a way that they cannot be neatly separated. 1968 was all about Vietnam, and it was all about a host of other issues as well. Vietnam underpinned it all in a very real sense, but the momentum in America, for example, had never moved away from civil rights and other social justice issues. The explosions of 1968 internationally, and there is very right to point to certain biases, including in us Western historians, regarding the treatment of 1968. The explosions of 68 internationally took some of their inspiration, at least, well, much of the inspiration, from the struggle of the Vietnamese people, particularly as it was highlighted and brought into sharp relief by the Tet Offensive. Yet the images of rebellion multiplied. One moment, Oakland Black Panther, the next Paris Situationist, the next New York Feminist, the next Tokyo Student Revolutionary. All independent at one level and yet interconnected at another. It is the vast terrain and yet specific geographies of political and cultural upheaval that we seek to, only partially of course, explore and understand today. And